o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. The chair knows there's a quorum present. We'll do the flag salute. It's right behind you, Julie. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, 2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Do you guys have anything?
I do not.
Matt, how many? You're on a streak.
4 weeks in a row.
Whoa.
4 meetings in a row?
Anything from you, Leah?
Nope.
Move into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. For folks who are dialing in on their phone, it is *6 to unmute yourself, the lower left-hand side of your computer screen if you're on the Zoom platform. And then just as a reminder, looks like it's pretty much all county employees who are on right now and Daleen, that we are very informal. So as we move through the agenda, if there are items that you want to weigh in on or ask questions about, we welcome that. Any public comment at this point? I do not see any. Under correspondence, we have a couple of things. First thing is a letter of resignation from Damon Holland from the Cultural Trust Coalition. Miranda is still looking for folks. What are your, how many do you need?
Is this the second one that's?
This is the second one.
Now we need 1 from Condon and 3 from Arlington.
So we need 1 person from Condon and 3 members from Arlington still. It is a really nice committee to be on. It helps decide some of the cultural dollars that we receive from the state and how those get spent here in the community. Pretty light lift in terms of meeting schedules and things like that. So if you are interested, Miranda is looking for names, so please reach out to her if you know of somebody and want to nominate them. Do that too. We'll take any names. The second thing on here is the report from the Arlington Library. They have an IGA with us where we provide funding every year. As part of that, they're required to submit a report annually to just let us know how they spent the money and what's going on at the library. And so that is included. The financials are included in the packet today. So for folks who want to see either of those things, those are on the county court's website under correspondence, as is the Gilliam County Treasurer's Report. So we have for March 2023, there's a revenue expense report, the fund balance summary, and then there's bank account balances in there. So anybody who is wanting to look a little deeper into the county's finances, that's the place to do it. And all of those are available online with the county court's packet. Okay, moving on to 4.0 is the consent agenda. Any questions about it?
Yes.
You don't say.
Huh? Walk me through 4.3, because I'm looking at the budget and it's 47,000 budget. I'm unclear. We crossed out 40 on this one document, says 87.5. I'm not sure.
So
I didn't know this is probably something pretty standard, but walk me through it. So
this is, we are getting an additional $47,000 for our OICC grant for the, and this is done in a 2-year basis. So this is for including funds from last year. So that 40,000 from last year that we've already received, plus we're getting an additional 47,000 to be used by September 2024.
So in the budget, when I looked at the 47,000 with revenue coming in.
Yeah, and that's this funding right here.
Okay.
And it's for the OICC program. For
This
folks
is
who
not
are,
a cost to the county. It's just.
No,
right, just more funds coming in to support
That's what I
hiring
thought,
kids.
but I thought I better.
and this was something that was previously under Teddy with Family Services, and so we've switched it over, so the grant agreements will come to the county court and things like that for review.
I'm good with the rest of it.
Okay, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of April 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of March 1st, 2023 joint work session minutes, consider approval of amendment number 1 to agreement number 21-103AC with Higher Education Coordinating Commission, and consider appointment of Sabrina Wagenaar to Local Community Health Partnership Advisory Committee effective April 19th, 2023 through December 31st, 2025. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are going to very briefly go into an executive session in accordance with ORS 192-6002D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Let me just get the script up here. The Gilliam County Court will now meet an executive session pursuant to ORS 192-6602D, which allows the court to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Designated staff will be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to remain in the public meeting room while the court reconvenes in a private meeting room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to the audience in the public meeting room. And folks, obviously we have still a full agenda, and so we will be coming back and taking that up. The court is going to leave this room that we're in Arlington and go to a second room. For everyone on the Zoom, just please stay put. And I'm hoping we'll be back in hopefully 10-15 minutes. This should be pretty short. So we'll see you in just a few. Yep.
Just take me as Miranda, I'll bring it back.
Okay. Okay, we are back in session and we are going to move into 6.1, which is consider approval of position descriptions for Roadmaster, Rock Crusher Supervisor, Crusher Equipment Operator, Road Equipment Operator 1, Road Equipment Operator 2, Shop Mechanic, Weed Control Assistant, Emergency Manager / Office Civil Deputy, and Emergency Management Coordinator / 911 Coordinator / Safety Officer. So in your packets, we most of these are just making sure that we have the remote work language, the driving requirements, especially for the road department. That's important that we're clear they need to have and maintain their CDLs while they're on the payroll. And then the ones that I do want to call out, and the other thing that's in here, as you'll see throughout, is just making sure that we're clear on when people need to have their CDLs, when they need to have their safety certificates, and also adjusting some of the education requirements to fit where the classes are, where people are paid. The things that are significant that I wanted to call out for the Rock Crusher Supervisor, we would be moving that position, which is currently overtime eligible, to overtime exempt because the incumbent is supervising 2 full-time employees. On that position description, I would like to make just a really minor amendment, which is, let me just find it really quick, that under the supervision exercise where it says, assigns and reviews work, alters the workloads of others to meet scheduling demands, evaluates performance, At the very end where it says, or effectively recommends the same, I just at the end would like to add to the roadmaster. So it's clear that that's that chain of command if there's no objections to that. And then the other significant thing to note is the addition of a new position. This is the Emergency Manager Office Civil Deputy position. And this is part of the planning for Chris Fitzsimmons' eventual retirement in the next 4 years, a little less. So the idea is that she would be stepping into this new position her vacant position then would be filled by Jolie. And then Jolie would be an understudy in the sheriff's office to learn the emergency management functions while Chris is still here. And in that way, we don't have the emergency manager turning over at the same time as the sheriff, which at this point, Gary and Chris, I think, are planning to retire at around the same time. And then in addition, Jolie is going to continue to support the weed and road departments as needed as well in the current things that she's doing. So
just on this portion of this, do we need to pull Jolie out and maybe recuse from that vote on just that for the job description portion?
absolutely. So I think we could pull out the emergency management coordinator position description.
And I recuse as she's my niece,
Okay,
that part.
perfect.
Okay.
Is there discussion on the rest of the slate or any other questions, amendments that you guys want to?
I'm good with it. I would move to approve the slate of positions, descriptions, minus the emergency management coordinator / 911 coordinator safety / safety officer, which will be pulled as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the slate of position descriptions minus the emergency management coordinator, 911 coordinator, safety officer position as amended. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then
Now do I need to move the,
to approve for the one that we pulled out.
okay, so I move to approve the emergency management coordinator, 911 coordinator, safety officer
Correct.
as presented.
And I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the emergency management coordinator, 911 safety coordinator, and safety officer position description as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, that threw me off. I was waiting for two votes before I vote. Okay. Let's move on. This is related. So let's go down into 6.2, which is consider approval of resolution number R 2023-06. A resolution adopting fiscal year 2023-2024 salary schedules. Before we start, we've got lots of conflicts in this one because there are salaries and then some family members. So I'll kick us off and say that I need to declare a conflict because this adjusts the salary for the county judge, which is me. And so I have a conflict. Yeah.
And I have a conflict because I'm a county commissioner and my brother is the weed master.
And I have two conflicts. I'm a county commissioner and my niece is the looking at a new position.
Yeah. And your sister is the
My
JP.
sister is the JP.
So you win today for the number of
Three.
conflicts.
Conflict.
So for those who are wondering at home, how do we handle this when all three commissioners or all three of us have conflicts? The State Ethics Commission has given us advice that when that happens, if we lose a quorum through conflicts, we are allowed to vote. And so that is why all three of us will be able to actually make a decision because we are legally required to do so, despite the fact that we have conflicts in this particular one. So with that, let me just walk you through kind of what this is, any changes, and then we can talk about any amendments that we want to make or consider. So as you guys know, we're responsible for setting the salary schedules each year. This particular one is for our non-represented sheriff's office employees and elected officials. The salary schedule for the represented employees was approved previously as part of the letter of agreement we signed with AFSCME a couple of meetings back. And that one went into effect on April 1. So that is why that is not part of this package today. So basically, for most of the non-represented and sheriff's office employees, there is a proposed increase of 6.5% for the cost of living adjustment. In addition, the Gilliam County Compensation Board met and they recommended to us a 5.5% cost of living increase for the elected officials. So the elected officials' salary reflects that recommendation. In the non-represented schedule, I want to walk this through like step by step because we've got a lot of changes with the new supervisory positions and the change we just made with Brad's position. Okay, so first of all, you'll see in here that we're adding in the Juvenile Prevention Services Director, Facilities Director, Weed Control Officer, Library Director, and Senior and Family Services Director. 2 of those positions came out of the union, as you know, and 3 are new positions. Basically what you are looking at is these compensation levels included a 6.5 cost of living increase over their last year positions. So whether that's what Mary and Doug's were when they were in the union, and then what the coordinator level positions were last year. And then on top of that, each of the positions has a 5 to 9% raise. And that's in recognition of the supervisory duties that we are compensating them for. The variation is based on some of the positions, specifically the library director and the juvenile prevention services director, as being compensated below comparable positions, both within Gilliam County. So looking at what we're requiring education-wise and judgment-wise and essential duties-wise. And then also when Miranda and I looked at, especially with the juvenile director, comparables from other counties. So we're doing our best to kind of get them back into alignment where they need to be. In addition, the public transportation director position was put back into the schedule. It was a previous position that had been unfilled. And so I put it in based on the rate that it was when we last approved it back in 2021 when it was last filled. So I kept that consistent. Then in addition, the library board had reached out and asked us to take a look at both Mary's position and the youth librarian position, which is Deanna. And so what we saw on the youth librarian is that was significantly underclassed when you looked at, like, say, where our custodian was, where other people were. And so hers is a significant jump. She is very limited part-time. And so I think budgetarily, it's not going to make a big difference in that number. But the hourly rate was well below, I think, where some of our other similarly classed in terms of education positions were. So we're trying to move that up and make that align a little better. In addition, the compensation for the prevention services assistant has been significantly decreased to match what the youth librarian position is. They have similar qualifications. It's a similar skill set and job. And part of the reason we're able to do this drop is that when we moved this into the non-represented schedule from the represented schedule, there was an incumbent in place at the time. And so we needed to maintain her current pay schedule under law to ensure that we were following pay equity. With her retirement, that allows us to adjust that downward so that our new hire can come in at a rate that's appropriate compared with the rest of the classifications. This next one of the other things when I was looking at the schedule is the custodian position is, I think, overclassed with when you're looking at in comparison with, say, where the current facilities coordinator is, where the facilities director ends up at. And so what I am proposing for that specific position is that would be a 2.5% COLA instead. But to ensure that the incumbent remains whole, I would like to go ahead and credit Herb a step early. It's about 1.5 years early. The next step that he's entitled to is a 4%. And so combined with the 2.5 and the 4, he would end up with a 6.5% increase as well as everybody else. So he wouldn't be missing out. This is just a little bit of a way to keep the custodian one rather than hold it steady or decline it. I would like to just try to just do a slight increase so that the other positions can kind of catch up around him so that it's appropriately classed. So hopefully that is sufficient to kind of meet that need and also not penalize the incumbent who is a valued employee. Let's see, coming up next, the compensation for the senior meal site cook, I increased very slightly, like I'm talking like maybe 15-20 cents. Part of that is as you look at the scales, we for a long time have had everyone have their own little scale and they're differentiated by a couple of cents. Administratively, it really doesn't, it's easier to class them together. And the schedule looks a little bit cleaner when we do that. And so I just bumped them up to match with the public transportation driver position so that those were in alignment.
Those are both part-time positions.
Very part-time, yeah. Well, the senior meal site is very part-time and the paid drivers are up to 0.49. And then we'll get into the pressure department one here in a moment. I did want to note on the public health administrator, originally we had put that in as a stepped position. I'm recommending that we just do a flat rate of 6,000, which is what we had originally agreed was the bottom step. And so my proposal is that we just keep that flat and not have them go up through the steps, just because of the way that we sort of co-manage that with the health district. It didn't seem to make sense to have that be on a stepped process. On the crusher department one, this is a significant change for the incumbents. We're moving him from hourly to salaried. What is in your draft is basically I took his hourly rate from last fiscal year, applied the 6.5% COLA, times it by 2,080 hours, which is how we calculate for a full-time position. And so the numbers in here are reflective of that. One of the questions that has come up though, is that because he was previously overtime eligible, that the net impact of that is that he's going to see a decrease in compensation. And so I think we need some feedback from you guys on, do you want us to bump that up a little bit to compensate for the overtime lost? And if so, by how much?
Yeah, my recommendation is he's averaging $1,500 annually in overtime compensation, and we should add that to the $80,583.42.
Okay, so would you? What would you
add to the base for that and then would apply it?
So would you like us? We can do this two ways. One's going to be, it's probably going to work out pretty close either way. Do you want us to add 1,500 to the base? Because that's going to times by, that'll carry, it'll be times by 2%, then 3% to get to his end.
It's less than 2%.
Right. But so the question is, do you want us to add 1,500 to the end? So he'd be making 82.
All 85, or all 83.
Or do you want us to add it to the base? Do you have a preference?
Well, what's the math on that?
So I think the base is probably going to end up with a slightly larger number in step
I would
F.
think we would add it to the existing, look after the base.
After the base, so add it to the end.
Yep.
Okay, so we would be looking at basically doing the reverse math to see, so that step F ends up being about $1,500 more. Can you do the quick math on what that would be?
82. 83, 42.
He's at 85.83. Sorry, 85.83.42 plus 1,500. So he'd be at 82. 0.8342 cents. Okay, So we would be amending the non-represented schedule so that the final step F for the rock crusher supervisor position would be at $82,000, $82,083.42.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that is the non-represented schedule. For the sheriff's office schedule, this is something that Gary and I have talked about because, and it came up yesterday during the budget committee, is that Gary is seeing, having retention problems with folks midway through their tenure step. So we get them in for a couple of years, they go on to another agency, Gary spends all that time getting them trained, has to start over continually. So one of the things we would like to explore, and this is kind of getting at this, is whether tightening the schedule for the sheriff's office so that their steps are coming more frequently might encourage some of those deputies to just stay on another year. You know, if they know that if they stay on another 6 months, they might get a raise, like that might increase that longevity even by a couple of years, which would help the sheriff's office. I think right now they've got, 3 that have been there less than a year. And that's really tough on the sheriff's office to maintain services when we've got that kind of churn and turnover in the deputies. So what you're seeing is Chris added in the new position that we just approved. And also you're seeing the steps condensed down. So rather than it being a 10-year schedule, it's a 7-year schedule. And again, the thought process behind this is that we're hoping that with some of these tighter steps, that will mean that we have deputies that are staying on a few years more. Because they can see that there's some financial incentive to staying with us. And I think probably keeps us competitive longer with some other agencies that might be able to offer better wages in some places. So that's what's before you. Any questions about, and then the elected officials one came straight from the comp board. So there's nothing changed from what they recommended there. Questions about any of this?
I do not.
Okay. We've all declared our conflicts. We have made a correction or an amendment to the non-represented schedule to bump up the rock crusher supervisor pay so that the final step is up to 82,000 and change, as I just noted. If you guys are comfortable, I would just need a motion to approve the resolution as amended. And then I'll go back and calculate the rest of the schedule for the rock crusher supervisor.
Do you want me to, Pat?
I move to adopt resolution number R 2023-06 as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number R 2023-06 as amended. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. I think we got it all. Thanks so much, Dewey.
Go back to work.
Okay, let's move into 6.3. Consider approval of outdoor library design and project management proposal from Pillar Consulting. Okay, so back in November, we reviewed a proposal from Jeff for the outdoor library / electric vehicle station charging / sidewalk replacement project behind the library in Condon. Back then, the directive was that I needed to go ask Jeff to revise his proposal of it and include more EV charging on site, and then better identify that the sidewalk replacement was a goal of the project, because that wasn't necessarily clear in the first go round. So what you have before you is that attached, is that revised proposal. Covers the engineering and design services for the electric charging portion and the new sidewalk, as well as entrances into the library, the outdoor library. And then project management for the actual construction of the entire project, which would be the charging stations, the sidewalk, and the outdoor library space. As a reminder, the outdoor library portion itself has already been designed. That was done by a University of Oregon landscape design student who did that for us, and that is included in your packet as well. And so right now, we, as you guys know, are chasing some ODOT grants and other grants for the EV charging in particular, but I think there might be some other stuff out there possibly for the green space that we can look for. If we're able to approve this piece, then I think that would also allow Jeff to start doing some projected costs for the project so that we can more effectively go compete for some of those grant funds. So that is what's before you. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's go back to the EV charging, because I'm a little concerned about his email. I have never heard of 5 to 6 hour charging EV stations before from anybody, but in order to get the DOT grant, you have to stay within the NEVA requirements, which are those specific chargers.
Okay. I think when he met with Delaney and I, we were not clear on whether there were parameters in that grant or not.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Okay, so if we can get those to him, and he's, like we've said, we weren't aware, and so I feel confident he is willing to work with whatever funding, with whatever parameters the funder has for
I
us.
think that, Brandon, help me with this, that where we're really gonna need Jeff's help is on the power
Figuring out the power side of
supply
it.
to put in the NEVA chargers if we can qualify for that, but he's gonna have to have some stuff in place for us to make that grant application viable.
Okay,
Mouse up on the screen.
I know.
So, I mean, I'm good with everything. But I want to make sure that we get on the same page with that EV charging and DOT,
yeah,
because I think that from what we've done so far is going to be the best option for grants initially on the charging side.
well, what if so really the area that I've been more dug in on is the green space and the sidewalk piece of it. So what if I, out of this meeting, just suggested that because the EV charging is the one we're chasing the dollars for right now. If he can work directly with the two of you,
Yeah.
on that piece, because the green space, it's already been designed. It's really just a matter of eventually putting it out for bid, getting, kind of figuring out how the sidewalk is gonna feed into that. The next piece, and I think the sidewalk itself is gonna be hopefully pretty straightforward. The city has specs that we're gonna have to follow and all that kind of stuff. So I think the EV is probably the most technical one that is unique. It is also the one that I think he's the most excited about trying to learn about. If we decide to move forward, I think it just makes sense probably to have him coordinate with you two on that piece of the project and get that kind of dialed in. And then, because it may also be that part of this goes in phases, like the green space may just stay as it is, and we put in the EV and we do the sidewalk, and then we come back later and do the green space later. We can always do that in stages. So, but I feel like with the funder who is possibly eager to give us some resources.
They did say that we're really high priority because of location, so.
Great.
We're in a good spot with that grant.
Great. Okay, so is there feedback on the proposal? I mean, when I first looked at this, I was like, an outdoor library, and it's, you look at the amount, it's 40,000. That seems like a lot, but then he also reminded me there's a sidewalk involved in that. There's the EV parking, all of that it's a much bigger project than just the green space park. So I wanted to remind the public that as well, that it's replacing a sidewalk and other things that are a pretty significant expenditure to do.
So this is just the engineering for the sidewalk?
This is the engineering. and design for the electric charging portion, the sidewalk, and then the project management of the actual contractors that will come in and build it. So it's both the design and the project management piece. Questions, thoughts on moving forward?
You haven't done a motion all day.
I move to approve the proposal from Pillar Consulting Group in the amount of $40,500 for engineering services for the outdoor library project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proposal from Pillar Consulting Group in the amount of $40,500 for engineering services for the outdoor library project. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then I also wanted to note for folks that in the packet is the final drawings for the library space, the outdoor, the green space, which are pretty cool, actually. So I'm hoping, I kind of need to dig into it a little bit more, and some of this may be adjusted because originally we were planning on having the parking come in, and now we're talking about the cars basically backing out into the right of way. So some of this outline is going to change just slightly because the EV parking footprint is going to be a little bit different. But it's kind of cool and some neat stuff. So if folks are interested in seeing what the final plan looked like, and then some of the example samples.
So who's chasing the other grants?
So I would be happy to keep chasing on the green space side. I don't think there's going to be anything on the sidewalks side, because normally that would be a safe routes to school ask. And with the grade school moved, we don't really have a way to ask for that. So the sidewalk is probably going to come out of county funds. But the green space, I'm happy to go chase some dollars for. Okay. Anything else on that one? All right, let's move into new business. 7.1 is consider approval of modification to South Gilliam County Cemetery District fiscal year 2022-2023 capital investment grant agreement. Delaney, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so I met with Jan Moffett last month to discuss their water resource application for their well for the beautification and water conservation project that we approved a capital investment grant for last year. Due to staffing issues that are really outside of their control, their application has been delayed countless times and is now, with 10 months to go, they're still waiting for the next level of review that it needs. So I would recommend that we extend their grant deadline to December 31st of 2023 to accommodate for them to hopefully get their well permit done, and then they can start their project and request those funds from us.
Yeah. Questions about that? Motion?
I move to amend fiscal year 2022-2023 capital projects grant award to South Gilliam County Cemetery District by extending the grant period to December 31st of 2023 and authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital projects grant award to the South Gilliam County Cemetery District by extending the grant period to December 31st, 2023, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 7.2 is discussion regarding Oregon National Flood Insurance Program (INFIB) environmental impact statement. INFIB. Pat, this is your area.
So I have some concerns, and I brought this to the court in November that there were some issues I had become aware of through Commissioner Yamamoto from Tillamook County, who's been in the middle of this for a year and a half. He told me when I talked to him Monday. And I don't completely understand all the ramifications of what can happen. I'm going to go to a meeting tonight in Pendleton around it, but basically what he is telling me is that FEMA, for the first time ever, is acting as an enforcing agent on this whole national floodplain insurance program, which also includes endangered species protection. And he said about 24 hours of meetings with FEMA, trying to convince them of the consequences that are probably pretty dramatic for what way things have been in the past. And an example would be, according to him, is if you had a house burned down in the floodplain that is currently in the floodplain, you would be allowed to rebuild that house on exactly the same footprint that it was before. You could change nothing. And you would have to extend it and get it in the air above the floodplain. So it costs you more to build a house. For new projects, you will not get to do them, period. I specifically asked him what he thought about projects that were in progress as they go through this. He calls it a buy-off, when the buy-off is enacted. And he said he thought he was pretty sure if you had your permitting in place, or in progress with the far enough along with the project, that you could probably continue grandfathered in, is because you got started before the buy-off went into place. And my biggest concern that I know of now, I think we talked a little bit about the other day about the Shelter Station could be a concern for development out there because part of it's in the floodplain, but the motel that the city of Arlington bought is in the floodplain. And they are planning to do something with it. They've been have been somewhat slow, I guess I would say, in the process of what they're gonna do with that property. They're talking about this fall sometime getting into the abatement part of it. So I got on the agenda this morning to go to the next city council meeting and talk to the council about they need to probably speed that up, because the recommendation from Commissioner Yamamoto is if you've got something like that you need to do it now, because you will not be able to do it later. So we need to think about, as county leaders, are there any other projects out there that we may want to move forward? The one thing he did say, which I was pretty sure would be true, I know we're going through floodplain mapping with FEMA now, so at any time that a project come along, it would be obviously the current mapping would be what we would use. So any new mapping that took some of the floodplain out would not be part of the issue in the future, but anything that is in the floodplain would be. And it sounds like you will not be able to get any of the national floodplain insurance.
The other thing that has confused me is why certain counties have been opted out of it.
Yeah, and I didn't ask him that question, and I'm going to find out tonight.
Yeah.
That does not make any sense.
I mean, I understand if they opted out the entire dry side of the state, us being one of the dry, because for people's reference, I think Malheur, Baker, and Harney were opted out.
Yep.
And I understand why in Tillamook, where it rains a lot and they regularly have floods, it probably would still be an issue. I don't understand why they,
especially Sherman, Gilliam, Moreland, Umatilla.
yeah, why they chose a lot of counties that don't
You might have some
typically
issues in
flood.
Southern Oregon, possibly, central Southern Oregon, but surely not here.
Yeah. So I would be curious to hear if there is any feedback on that after your meeting on why, how they got to be the lucky three, that somehow got opted out of who they knew to be opted out, honestly.
But I wanted to kind of get it out there so we're all thinking about it, because it's going to be something that looks like we can't turn back on. And there may be some projects we want to try to move forward with sooner rather than later.
Makes sense. All right.
And I will let you know what I find out.
Let us know. One thing after the other.
Thank you for spending your time on that.
Yeah, thank you. I saw the email and I was like, oh, I can't get my head around this. This
It's
is,
confusing.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to 7.3 Gilliam County Public Health Update and consider appointment of interim public health administrator. I see that Daylene is on, but I will toss it over to you, Leah, and say you or Daylene want to provide an update.
Aileen? No, Leah, go ahead, but I do have a couple things to add once you're done.
Okay, so on April 12th, we received an update from Holly. The program element updates are the TPEP, NRT, and I think that's the tobacco, right, Delene?
Yes, the Tobacco Prevention Education Program.
Okay, is currently running and they have participants signed up, working on additional funding for tier 1, which require a 0.5 FTE. Babies First, they're working with the state and Wheeler County to potentially provide their Baby First program, which is kind of exciting. And then they continue to do work on all the other programs. They're working on a new work plan and budgets for next year and have submitted several budgets which have been approved. And they're working on the quarterly report. I don't know, did you guys get that finished, Daleen, or you still working on it?
It is still in progress, but close.
Okay. And that's all I had on as far as what I had written. Go ahead and add what you need.
So I just wanted to add, since we met, I had a meeting on Monday with OHA, and we have been doing these quarterly meetings that invites all of the program leads, and it gives everybody, an opportunity and space to share basically what's working, what's not working, what's going well, and gives everybody a chance to provide feedback to one another. So that was our last kind of meeting where we're all going to come together like that. And it was pretty similar to the other ones that we've gone through in the past. Everybody, not there was a ton that was said, but nobody had negative feedback. All of the programs feel like we're on target and doing the things that we should be doing. The big thing that came up in that meeting was that we're starting to look ahead. I don't know if you recall, but we had talked about doing a review about a year's time in, just so that we could make sure that we were doing all the things correctly and meeting all of the targets that they want us to be doing. And so we talked more in depth about that upcoming review. And so we're going to be getting more information coming to us about that in May, what that'll look like. And the tentative scheduling for that is going to be in September. And so it'll just be, from my understanding, it sounds like, the different programs are going to reach out to me. We'll kind of go through the steps. It's like a mock triennial review, and it's quality assurance only. It's not like there would be any action steps or, things done if we weren't meeting certain criteria.
Because normally since it's a triennial, it's done every 3 years. Is that?
Yes. So LPHAs go through a triennial review. Because we're brand new, we wanted to, instead of waiting 3 years to go through that triennial review to find out that maybe we weren't doing something correctly, we wanted to find out sooner so that we could correct it. So that was why we're kind of doing this, I'll call it a mock review, just so we can be on top of it sooner rather than later if there is, a big issue.
Okay, great. Perfect. Is that it?
That was it.
Okay,
Yay.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Daleen.
You bet.
I got to see the annual review that North Central went through when I was on their board.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
Really an extensive element review of what's going on within the program. So it's.
Well, and I think from my understanding, it's really hard because they set things and then they change them all the time. So it's a constant state of change.
When they went through the one down there, they're in the middle of COVID, and a lot of the programs were kind of not up to par
Yeah,
because of COVID. And they gave grace for where they were at within those, recognizing where they were at, but they did look at it and see where they're at, make some recommendations on what they need to do and put timelines on what need to be done.
Mhm.
yeah, and I think Daleen can address how much they change things on a monthly basis.
It's quite frustrating.
Well,
Just
just
when you
looking at-
think you have something down, something else gets thrown into the mix and changed, or your contacts change. There's a lot of turnover and change at the state level. So you got to be on your toes.
Yeah, there is, so.
Well, just looking that the program's been in place for less than a year, and we've done what, five
Five,
amendments so
yeah.
far to the 1-year agreement, that, yeah. You
I
can-
was
you
trying
can
to-
tell there's a lot
I
of
was
change
trying to
happening
find
there.
something on a Morrow County's thing, and they were reviewing their 10th amendment for that year, so. So, not uncommon.
And then Leah, do you also want to address
So,
the administrator?
yeah,
stuff?
so, I got an email from Holly, last, Thursday and the 13th, and she informed us that she was gonna resign from her position as the Gilliam County Public Health Administrator. Her email is attached. So I contacted, Andrew Epstein at the Oregon Health Authority, and he told me that, until maybe the health district and the Gilliam County Public Health at the clinic can figure out what they're doing, that they can appoint me as the interim administrator to the county until they figure out what's going on. And then on Sunday, the health district, Holly resigned from the health district, so she gave them 2-week notice. So she's working through with the staff, I think, for this next 2 weeks to make sure that the transition is smooth. I don't know if Daleen wants to speak to it, but it sounds to me like, I know Rick was at the clinic on Monday and it was humming away like normal, so.
Yeah,
And-
no, I don't have anything to add there. Holly and I are still working through all the budgets and work plans and getting those done and completed before the end of the month.
Yeah, okay. So there's a motion in here. I don't think
Yeah.
I can make it.
Okay. I will then.
Okay,
I move to appoint Leah Watkins as the interim public health administrator to Gilliam County effectively April 19th, 2023.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Leah Watkins as an interim public health administrator to Gilliam County effective April 19th, 2023. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
abstain? Do I have to abstain?
You don't have to,
Okay.
but you can if you prefer to.
And just so you know, Daleen, if you do figure out somebody that you want to appoint, whether that be you, intent, I'll be more than happy to relinquish that position to you.
Okay, so all those in favor, did you vote or are you abstaining?
I'll just abstain.
Okay, so none opposed, Commissioner Watkins abstains, the motion carries. Let's move into announcements and next meeting. So the next meeting of the court will be May 3rd, 2023. That will be in Condon. Yesterday, we held our first public meeting for the budget committee. And so our next meeting will actually be the day before the next court meeting, which will be May 2nd. That will also be in Condon in the courtroom upstairs. So that's going to be for folks who are interested in weighing in on the budget committee's work. That will likely be the last meeting and last opportunity to weigh in on the upcoming fiscal year. So if you are interested, you can come in person. We always have it on Zoom as well. And so just look for the notices on the website and through our email, our regular places. Pat, what do you got going on?
Well, with the legislative session running on, I've attended the Public Safety OC committee meeting in the Health and Human Services a couple of Fridays ago, and then on Monday went to Salem, attended the Transportation Community Development Committee meeting and Governors and Veterans Committee meeting, and then attended the Legislative Committee. I've been participating in Eastern Oregon caucus calls as always while they're going through the legislative process, and I did go to or get online or on the Zoom meeting for the Finley and Owens Town Hall Wednesday night. Went to the Port Arlington board meeting on Thursday night, and Friday was in Prineville for a Korea meeting. Most of this stuff just advocating for things that hopefully will be good for Gilliam County. And tomorrow I got a budget meeting with Norcor and then a board meeting, and then I've been asked with some other commissioners to attend the county college dinner tomorrow night in Salem.
Woohoo, that's exciting. Leah, what do you got going on?
We had a public health staff meeting on April 10th. And then I went to the Gilliam County or South Gilliam Health District meeting on Monday night and attended that. And I'm leaving for county court tomorrow.
County College?
County college, sorry.
It's like, wait, what?
Okay, county college. So I guess I'll see Pat at dinner
At dinner.
down
There
there.
you go.
I'm gonna have to,
No deliberations.
No.
Put Miranda in between you two.
Sherry offered me a wheelchair that I said, yeah, Miranda can push me around.
Okay, so for me, I have one question that I want to bring up related to wrapping up North Central Public Health District. So our final quarterly payment, if we remember, I held on to because we were waiting to see whether there would be any transition funds coming from NCPHD. Those never materialized. So my question for you guys is, do we pay the final invoice? Or do we inform NCPHD that we are not going to pay it because we are holding those funds and that those were part of the transition funds that we used basically to convert into Gilliam County Public Health? It's from, at this point, a year ago.
Their invoicing form.
They still want them,
And we never received any funds from them.
not any transition when we broke away. So we received our portion of COVID funds. So there was some outstanding program elements that OHA went back and calculated that crossed over multiple fiscal years. And so OHA went back and calculated the portion that were Gilliam counties, and they handed just the COVID related funds over. But all of the other funds that we paid into where they were carrying cash carryover and stuff like that, nothing came back to us for our percentage of unspent funds.
Assets.
Nothing. Yeah, none of that. So all of the cars that they purchased, all of the, which had portions of Gilliam County, obviously designated funds. So basically what we got back from them was just the portion that was unspent of the COVID dollars that was for us.
Okay, so, do we need to run this through legal?
We can ask them if you would like me to get a legal opinion back from them.
Yeah, I think maybe we get a legal opinion. I mean, my feeling is, yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, that was kind of my feeling too. And that's,
Should have been more forthcoming and try to say, yes, we should look at this stuff. It doesn't sound like that's happened at all.
and that's really why I held the check too.
How much is the check they're wanting?
45.
Yeah,
About 45,000.
it's not gonna be anywhere near what probably is owed.
Yeah, it's nowhere near, you know, what we would, yeah,
It's
what we
been a-
should have gotten back
There
from
would have been a
them
good even
for our,
fair break.
for our percentage of what we paid in for all of those years and what they were carrying over in their budget. Yeah. it's a drop in the bucket really, compared to what they probably should have sent back to us.
Mhm.
But yeah, we can get a legal opinion on.
Good idea, do you think?
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Let me see, what else is in, do I have anything else that I said I was gonna write?
And actually go back to that, how would we ever figure out or calculate or determine, what?
So what we had suggested, what I had originally suggested to Shelley in the conversation is that the original IGA, when they were deciding how much we contributed, there was like a percentage. So anytime there was a project and they needed the counties to put in, it was like Gilliam and Sherman put in an X%, and then Wasco County put in X% kind of thing.
Mhm.
So our suggestion to them was like, for your cash carryover that is unrestricted, that were like originally county funds, we should be getting back a percentage of whatever's sitting in those accounts. That never happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was sort of our, because OHA wasn't going back and reconciling the accounts for the unspent portions of the other public health dollars.
Mhm.
And they would have had to be the ones that recouped that. And so I was more interested in the county contributions that we make every year. And if we could get that portion back, and we never saw our portion come back. So.
The one thing that I would offer up some concern over is that we don't foul up our McKed processing.
True. Absolutely. NCPHD has not reached out to us. My understanding is that mostly that conversation or that communication has been happening at the clerk's office. But I will still go run it by legal first and kind of see where we think we might be at with it.
Yeah.
We want to cut off our nose to spite our face, and yet.
Yeah, there is that. Let me see, other than that,
Or go back and just call it a wash and say.
well, that's kind of what I thought. I kind of thought, hey, we'll drop you sending us money back. You'll drop us sending the last invoice, which we would have turned around and asked for a percentage back of
Yeah.
anyway. And we'll just all part our own ways and
Call it good.
call it good. They don't, I think because us not being there meant that they took huge hits to their budget and are trying to figure out how to staff and all that they don't see it the same way.
Mhm.
Which they've got to advocate for their agency. That's their job. So I'll get some more clarification from legal, and then depending on what they say, if they say, no, you need to pay it, are you guys okay with me just letting that go through? And if there's some question, then I'll bring it back and get some further direction. Let me see. I'm just looking through my other pendings. What's that?
We're doing our next rocket kind of meeting.
Oh, yeah. So we've got it on the books to start the Rocket 2.0 process. That'll happen in mid-May. Got that scheduled. The initial meetings are going to be with Delaney and I before we get the band back together to work on the plan. So we'll do some planning and brainstorming with Delaney and I first, and then re-engage the community partners. So that's exciting. We were just talking in the car that we're going to be getting the special projects grant opened shortly. So if folks are impatiently waiting for that grant program to open up, good news, it's coming shortly. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure that it's advertised widely when it's open. The other thing I was also in Salem, down at AOC a couple weeks ago, working on stuff for AOC, and then also continuing to talk to our legislators about our funding priorities. They have started passing or moving through some of their key deadlines, which is winnowing the number of bills that are still in play. But most of our asks are coming through spending bills, appropriations bills. And so those those are going to be the last ones that go through the legislature. So we probably won't be hearing until May and June, kind of where we stand in some of the key asks that we've been making. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to note is that on the childcare stuff, I just got word, I raised my hand to help rewrite the rules for certified childcare centers in Oregon. And so I'm going to be sitting on the rule advisory committee that is going to be shaping the rules that right now Condon is under. Arlington's under the family one, but the certified center Condon is under that. And so I'm working directly with Janine to go through what are the rules that don't make sense to you right now? What are the ones that are causing you headaches when you're trying to operate, and to see if I can help move on the state level some of those requirements to help out some of our providers here. And other than that, we're moving forward on all of the projects we talked about, the bus barn, the outdoor library. Jeff is working on some stuff around the Shetler Station extension. We're right now need to have a surveyor come in and just double check where everything is. So that's moving forward. Oh, the courthouse. I wanted to raise that. Okay, so as we talked about yesterday, we're still moving forward with the ADA upgrades in the building. We had some communication with the circuit court about the plan generally. And they are on board. One of the things they suggested was that we look at bringing in portable trailers for porta potties, basically, so that we don't have to uproot everybody out of their offices and stuff like that. So Daryl has received some preliminary bids that they range from like $10,000 to $20,000, which, considering uprooting the entire county and all of that, probably makes sense for us to go ahead and do that. So based on that, I'm going to be talking to the elected officials, DMV, and also the circuit court about having that project probably look at starting that in November, with the idea that a lot of our folks are taking vacation time in November and December. And so hopefully that will be the least disruptive to normal county operations. And Jeff is saying if they can do all 3 bathrooms simultaneously, we're hoping that this is like a 4-month project. So I'm hoping by like February-ish, maybe March to be conservative, it's done. And then the courthouse is fully accessible and the bathrooms are up and running again. So I wanted to just flag that and see, one, if there was any objections to the bathrooms, and 2, if the timing seems to make sense as long as the electeds and the circuit court and our other partners are on board.
Not gonna affect me much.
Nope. Okay, so that's the update on that. And I think,
Well, is it, so the bathrooms are gonna bring in are gonna be outside, right?
correct.
Okay.
So Daryl is looking for, sometimes if you're at a
Heated?
concert or something, they have the fancy trailers.
Yeah,
That's what he's looking at.
okay.
So we'll have to find a place
Because
in the back.
wintertime
parking.
might be an issue if it's.
Yeah,
They bring them to the rodeo at Philomath and have showers.
yeah. I don't think we're gonna go the shower route, but we'll figure out a place in the back in the parking lot where they can be easily serviced by the provider. And then that hopefully will allow us to expedite the construction a little bit more, and then not have people have to uproot out of their offices. They can if they prefer not to use the trailer, but well, we have options for both.
So do they even have to work on the one that actually is ADA? They have to work on all of them. They'll all be shut down because of that.
Yeah, that one has been grandfathered in, but the bathroom next to it we would want to put that into ADA compliance as well. And so I think it just makes sense to do them both. They're gonna have to take some space. There's a closet in there right now that they're gonna have to take some space out of for what's currently the men's room. And so, yeah. And then the other issue is the one that's ADA right now is technically designated as the women's room, which, if whoever needs it can use it, but it might throw some people off.
Yeah.
It's designated as the women's room right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think those are all. That it? That's all my updates. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, it is 11:33 and I will adjourn the meeting.